Yesterday we had a session. Actually, yesterday was a busy day. We had two sessions with Matt Monticchio on some of his personal stuff, and then Frank Cabanas doing some overdubs and fixing some stuff on his project. The Matt is an amazing piano player, jazz piano player, and pop. I mean, he does it all, but is definitely thinking on a higher level than myself and other people I've worked with. Matt, the thing that's interesting about Matt is he's a composition guy, so he's thinking like about 100 things. I tend to be very focused and on getting good sounds, good tone, and how this is going to fit in with the project and where we're going. Whereas Matt has a compositional mind, and he thinks about, he's not thinking about one part, he's thinking about 100 parts. And so it's hard work keeping up with him, a good kind of hard work, challenging. And he keeps me jumping because I can't arm tracks as fast as he's got ideas. And often I noticed this yesterday. I've worked with Matt a couple of times with the Everheart project and his own stuff, and then with Doug and other people, and then the Go Particle, which is an outstanding jazz band that him and George Yellick run. But what's interesting about Matt that I love is the initial recording part. Almost none of it gets kept. Matt tends to put stuff out to get his head going, and he ends up, the first couple things, he kind of determines what he doesn't like. The songs, we're working on the songs, and we'll get to the end of it, and he'll say, okay, that's what I don't want to do. Now I know where I want to go with this. And it's kind of a fun process. Some would call it a waste of time because, we spent all that time getting sounds, but it's not a waste of time because it helps him get his mind in order. And then once he gets it in his head, this stuff is outstanding. It really is. But a couple things that I was not quite ready for. Generally, I like to be ready for sessions when a client comes in. I like to imagine how things will go and be set up for them so that they can seamlessly go from idea to idea. And we had just set up a new computer, a new synth and beat making station that I was pretty excited about, and I thought we would start there, building up some beats and some ambience to kind of build up these songs. And we did a little of that, but Matt was ready to go in and try ideas right away. So we ended up tracking piano. Matt ended up playing some drum parts, which I didn't expect him to play drums. So all that to say, it was a little challenging, since when I used to have the console and I had 32 inputs, I had plenty of inputs, plenty of preamps. But when I got rid of that to streamline, I went down to having, 16, maybe less, 12 to 16 preamps, which for most situations sounds like a lot. But when you have somebody like Matt who's wanting to go from idea to idea, stuff needs to remain mic'd up. And we lost a little time in that having to mic stuff up, because we were using my Charter Oak, 600s, S600s, a tube condenser mic that I use on overheads. I was using it on guitar and a couple other things at some previous sessions. So it wasn't set up on the drums. So anytime you have to double up equipment, it's a little challenging. It's difficult to keep everything in my studio mic'd up at one time. So we lost a little downtime there. We lost some downtime in troubleshooting headphone mixes going from station to station. So these are a lot of things that intern Tommy and I talked about, ways that we could do better. That was, a reminder of being prepared. Because what I was prepared for was not necessarily what we went with. So that was a cool session. Good, good learning. Good, things to grow in there. And then in the evening, so basically, like Matt went out the door, Frank came in the door, crossed paths pretty closely there. And then last night we did some more overdubbing with Frank. And one of the things that on the technical end with the Frank Cavanis sessions was we originally recorded the upright piano with my Lewitt LCT 240s, which are a great mic. They're kind of like a 414. And the sound we got, I came off the piano, the hammers from the front, and I came off about 8 to 10 inches because I wanted more of a, not as direct of a sound, but more of an ambient kind of sound, not too ambient, but it ended up as we started stacking things and adding synth in that miking technique was maybe a little too ambient and didn't serve the song as well. So we talked about cutting out the low end. We talked about, a different approach to Frank's playing, to cut out the low end so it wasn't too muddy, because we were adding bass. And in the process, I said, well, I think it's really the mic selection and the strategy of miking that needs fixed. So what we did, we went from those LCT 240s a distance back, which they're cardioid condensers, and I'll show you them in a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about, to miking more direct with a pair of Omnis, which I'm really fond of, the Avenson STO2s, and not going so far back, going a little closer for a direct sound. And it made a huge difference, and it totally nailed the part. So instead of, EQing and kind of the lazy man's thing, we really went for getting the right sound at the source. But I'll show you. I'll roll around and show you that. There's the ST02s. I'll show you the Lewitts. I don't know if I'm sure the focus isn't keeping up with that, but Lewitt, great mics. I really like those Lewitts, but you could see the piano, how we're kind of doing a low string, high string kind of a thing. I don't know if you can see that or not with the lighting, but that's what that looks like. So one of the things with the Frank sessions that in setting up this another station for beat making and whatnot, you can see we have our Novation MIDI board, and I don't know if you can see over there, there's the touch screen. Maybe I'll take a walk. So this is our MIDI station, and that's Frank's MS-2000 synth, which had some cool sounds that we used. But this is our beat making station. We've got a touch screen computer there that's pretty streamlined, and then our Arturia Spark. All right. So the nice thing about this is this is more of a performance type of a setup than a MIDI setup. We're not really recording MIDI, we're just using MIDI to trigger sounds, and then playing, it comes out of the secondary computer and runs into the patch bay there, into a channel. So the nice thing is it's very performance related. So we're not spending a bunch of time editing and trying to get it to feel right. We're playing it, you know, as it feels. And you know, I don't have anything against MIDI. It's a one more tool, but there's a lot of those things that can be crutches and keep you from being a good musician. And I just assume do 2, 3, 4, 5 more takes of something than spend a half hour or 5 minutes even, editing MIDI, because it's going to make you a better player, and that's, I'd rather have you come out of this process as a better musician than, get some sort of a fake performance. So that allows us to do that. So it runs right in and we can basically perform those parts. Also, it doesn't drain the CPU on the computer, linking it up. I mean, oftentimes, with sessions, you have a lot of high track counts. You might have some plugins. I tend to mix as I go to get a feeling of where the song is. And then when you get into those situations, now you have latency problems and it's late and it's not synced up and it's a bunch of drama, whereas this is a smoother process. So, anyhow, very fruitful couple of weeks, busy. It's exciting to, it's no fun having a studio if there's no musicians in it recording. So it's a blessing to have people coming in and wanting to work with us, wanting to work with me. And we're looking forward to more stuff in the coming weeks. Still more overdubbing and tracking and maybe a couple new artists that I'm talking to also. So that's where we're at, and we'll see. Don't expect a weekly update, but I'd like to do a better job of updating, so we'll see what happens. All right, thanks.